Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the opportunity to address the question. 7 years ago, a young man had his life taken on the streets of the city of Chicago. He had all the promise ahead of him, and a police officer took his life, killed him. I said then, I'm the mayor, and I'm responsible and accountable for fixing this so this never happens again. And to be honest, there's not a day or a week that has gone by in the last 7 years I haven't thought about this and thought about the what-ifs and the changes and what could have been. And I think we all know that over the last 10 years, there's not a city in this country, regardless of size, that hasn't dealt with the gulf between police activities and the oversight and accountability that's necessary. And Chicago's no different. And as soon as events happened, IPRA, the oversight authority, is on the scene. Shortly after that, the state's attorney opened an investigation, and not too far from then, the U.S. attorney and the FBI opened an investigation. And you have 3 ongoing investigations happening simultaneously of that night and events there. As you know, there's a long-standing protocol and practice that nothing's released in the middle of an investigation for fear of either prejudicing a witness or endangering a prosecution. That was the practice, long-standing, not just in Chicago, across the country. And as recently as May 2nd of this year, the New York Times wrote a story saying, or reported a story, that there's no uniform standard or policy for the release of police video. It doesn't exist today, and it didn't exist back in 2014 and 2015, except for the policy that had been in place about the integrity of an investigation. And you don't want to prejudice a witness, you don't want to prevent a prosecution because of premature release of video or any prima facie evidence. Now that view and that principle runs headlong into another very important value, and that is the deep suspicion, distrust, and skepticism that exists in the community about the authorities investigating the authorities and getting to the bottom of what happened. And the longer an investigation goes on, the greater the distrust and the greater the skepticism about what's really happening here, and that it's not about finding out what happened and getting to the bottom of it, but this is a whitewash and a cover-up. And you have this kind of tension to conflict between the integrity of an investigation, so you don't harm it, and the deep, well-deserved and well-earned distrust by the community in the authorities. Now, I see in that, and this is my view, that the last person you want to make a unilateral decision about the release of a video while the FBI and the U.S. attorney, the state's attorney, and IPRA are investigating is a politician. It should be made by professionals. The moment a politician unilaterally makes a decision in the middle of an investigation, you've politicized that investigation, and more importantly, you may have endangered the prosecution and bringing somebody to justice. Second, I would say in the first term of my tenure, I made a number of changes that dealt with oversight, accountability. And it is clear to me those changes were inadequate to the level of distrust. They were, on the best, marginal. I thought I was addressing the issue, and I clearly missed the level of distrust and skepticism that existed. And that's on me. In addition, I would say third, the point of afterwards, there was a number of inquiries, both by the Inspector General, a special prosecutor, all looked at what happened in the events afterwards. And nobody suggested or concluded that anybody in my office or I myself did anything improper. Now, this committee is in the possession of a lot of letters of support from the leadership of the Black Caucus in Chicago to the leadership in the House, Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker, Majority Leader Hoyer, Whip Claiborne, the chairmen of the two committees, Greg Meeks, your sister committee in the House, Chairman Adam Schiff. You also have letters from the Chamber of Commerce and the Chicago Federation of Labor and Building Trades. All speak to my professional capacities. You also have a letter from Pastor Marvin Hunter. He's a reverend on the west side of the city of Chicago. And the reason that's relevant is he speaks to my person and my character, not just my professional abilities. And he is Laquan McDonald's great uncle. We have prayed together over the last couple of years, gotten to know each other, gotten to talk about, if we had a magic wand, how we would fix what's broken in our criminal justice system, talked about current events. We've even argued about the Cubs and the Sox. But most importantly, we've gotten to find a common understanding. And I'm appreciative of his support for my nomination, as I am of the other leaders in Chicago and the leaders here in the House that I served with. And I'm appreciative of what they said. That all being said, Mr. Chairman, it doesn't take away from the fact that a grave tragedy occurred 7 years ago to this day on the streets of the city of Chicago. And that tragedy sits with me, as it has every day and every week for the last 7 years.
Thank you very much. And you mentioned letters in the possession of the committee. All of those letters will be included in the record, including Mr. McDonald's relative. Senator Risch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Hagan.